Everyone, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell by the title of this video, I am doing one of probably the most requested videos that I have ever had on my channel, and that is to talk about how I meal plan, how I get inspired, how I find my recipes, and also a little bonus I'm going to add on here is how I use my meal plan to create my meal prep list. So let's get started because I know this will probably be a little bit of a longer video. So the first thing, there's a couple things that kind of go along with meal planning. First, you need to get organized, and then you need to get inspired. So I'm going to start with the tips for getting organized. Tip number 1, create a master list with meals that your family loves. So these could be like what some people call their tried and true recipes. But just kind of create that, because that is probably where you want to first go to, is to first go to those things, especially if you are just kind of stuck and you don't know what to choose from. At least you always have your master list to fall back on. Tip number 2, figure out how many plans you have to meal plan for. Now, in the past, I have tried monthly meal planning. I've tried meal planning for 2 weeks. I find for me, planning by the week is the easiest thing for me, especially since I like to try new recipes. That is the main reason why it is for me. And so, I don't know, I've tried all those different ways, and weekly meal planning is the easiest and best way for me to do it. So you need to figure out first how you're gonna plan it. Are you gonna do it do a week of meals at a time, 2 weeks of meals at a time, or a month at a time? It has to be your choice. That part, I can't tell you what is the best or not best, because it's definitely what works for you and your family. But so once you do that, you need to figure out how many meals you need to plan. So you need to do this by looking at your particular schedules. So depending on what your work schedule is, your husband's work schedule, partner's work schedule, whatever, your children's activities, do they have to stay after school one day? Do you have to work late? Do you have a meeting? Whatever it is, look at your calendars, look at your schedules, and see how many meals you actually need to plan for, because there may be some weeks you only need to make 3 meals, and then you've spent all this time meal planning and you only really needed 3 meals to plan for. So that's the first thing you want to do, is figure out how many that you need. Tip number 3, how much time do you have to create these meals? What I mean by that again is, do you have say you have to work late. There's occasionally I will have to work late. I have a meeting, so I may not be getting home until 6 o'clock versus 5 o'clock. So I need something quick and easy, maybe a slow cooker meal. Something can already be in the crock pot while I am at work, and so it's done when I get home. Or a 30-minute meal, or maybe just a 1-pot meal, something like that. So you need to figure out what your schedules are, how they're aligning, and how much time, or do you have a lot of time on a certain day? Make that be your day that you make maybe more of an extravagant meal if you feel like doing that once in a while, which I do that on Sundays. Sundays I usually have time, so Sundays are usually our biggest kind of meal that we have during the week, and so that is mine. And then during the rest of the week, I try to do more easier meals. So you need to look at your schedules and decide what works out for you. So figure out how much time you have each night to prepare your meals. Tip number 4, schedule time each week to meal plan. Put it in your calendar, put it in your phone, write it on in your planner, something. I put it on my planner every Thursday. I meal plan. I schedule time to do it. That is my only way I have discovered that I will make sure I do it. Now, that's not being said that I don't do a little bit throughout the week, and we will get through that. We will get to that on the get inspired part. But just schedule your time. What day a week do you go grocery shopping? That's usually kind of can maybe, I would not suggest you doing your grocery shop, your meal plan, your grocery list, and your grocery shopping all on the same day. I do mine separate. So I meal plan on Thursdays. I make my grocery list on Fridays. That gives me time to check the pantry and all that. And I go grocery shopping on Saturdays. So you may need to switch that up a little bit, because when I'm doing my meal planning, I'm also looking in my pantries and looking in my freezers as well, just to kind of give me some inspiration. Again, we'll get through that here in a little bit. But I would not suggest you doing it all in one day. You're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to want to do it again. So I would highly recommend you schedule a time during the week before your grocery shopping day to make your meal plan. Tip number 5, check the weather. Sounds weird, right? But not really. So for me, the weather can really dictate how I feel and what I'm going to feel like eating. There is nothing worse than making up this brilliant meal plan and then you have one night as your grill night and it's going to rain and you didn't look ahead of time to see that you're going to have rain. Now, I do schedule out my meals throughout the week, which what I'm going to have on Sundays, what I'm going to have on Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. That's easiest for me because I do work outside the home 40 hours a week. So that is typically the easiest thing for me to do, is to know what I'm having each night. If you're one of those ones that just plans out, these are the meals I'm going to have sometime during the week and pick and choose, that's great. Then you may not need to check the weather. But for me, checking the weather helps out, because also if we're going to have, and I live in Oregon, so we may have a 70-degree day one day, and we're going to have a 40-degree day the next day. We're going to have rain this day, and then we're going to have beautiful, brilliant sunshine the next day. So I like to look at the weather just to kind of see what's coming up. If I know we're going to have one of those 40-degree days, I may want soup that night or some kind of pasta, something hot and warm and comfy. But if there's going to be a day we're going to have 75 degrees, oh please, I cannot wait till those days. But we have 75, 80-degree weather, and we may just want to have a salad, or we may want to grill out on the grill. So check the weather. That can help you get organized on your meal planning. Tip number 6, use theme nights. I used to do this all the time. I've kind of gone away from it, but I've thought about kind of going back to it, especially after kind of creating this meal plan tips for you. I loved theme nights. It really made my meal planning so much easier. So what I mean by theme nights, you kind of just say, okay, I'll kind of give you what my theme nights kind of used to be. Monday was meatless. Tuesday was like Mexican, because I like Taco Tuesday. Wednesday I did like Italian and pastas. Thursdays I did sandwiches. Fridays I did typically either leftovers or yeah, I think it was usually leftovers on Fridays. Saturday was Saturday's always feed yourself night. That's what we call it. It is a feed yourself night. It's either leftovers, whatever the kids can find in the refrigerator, that kind of thing. Sundays, I always called it kind of family comfort food. So that's usually typically when I would make a roast, or I'd make a whole chicken, or I'd make a, just things like that. Kind of the Salisbury steak, Swedish meatballs, kind of what I call kind of family style comfort food. That was my Sundays. So those are some ideas of theme meals. You also could do grill night. You can do breakfast night. Again, you can do soup night. So we also did a time for a while where we just did an ethnic night, and we would choose. We did German one time, we did, Asian food, and again, Mexican, Italian, and I would just look up recipes from those cultures and I would find something, and we did that for a while, but we found that there wasn't a lot of foods that we really enjoyed, so it didn't really work for all of us. I mean, there was some of like, oh, I really like this, oh, I don't like this, that kind of thing. So we kind of kept it to the typical, but if you kind of have that theme, so okay, it's soup night. So especially in the winter and fall, when you're typically going to have those colder weather days, then soup night might be wonderful, and then you can just think of different soups. So you already know what your theme's going to be. Now you just have to go find a soup that you want to make. Same with salad. You could just say salad. So you could do grilled chicken salad. You could do a chef salad. You could do a Cobb salad. There's so many salads out there that you could do, but it's going to be salad, so you can plan for that. Mexican, Italian pasta, that kind of thing is pretty self-explanatory. Sandwiches, so many sandwiches out there you could do. There's an Applebee's sandwich copycat of their grill something sandwich, club sandwiches, which I really like to make. We're gonna have that for dinner tonight. What else? My husband really likes Reuben sandwiches. I mean, there's all different kinds of sandwiches. If that's just kind of your base, then that's grill night, the same thing. So maybe think of some themes that your family might like, and that kind of would help you beginning in meal planning as well. Tip number 7, you keep inventories of your pantry and freezers. I am terrible at this, but I am trying to get better. But if you do that, then as you're doing your meal plan, you don't have to run around like crazy and go look in your freezer and go look in your pantry like I do. So if you already have your inventories and you keep track of it, and your family knows as if they take the last can of something, or if they take the last loaf of bread out of the freezer or whatnot, they mark it off on the list. So I do have some inventories sheets that I did create. I will see if I can find them and link them down below, but if not, you can find them all over online or just create your own. So basically, like I said, it just kind of tells you what you have in your freezers and what you have in your pantry, so you don't overbuy like I do every week. So And it's also good inspiration, which we'll get through that into the Get Inspired section. Tip number 8, choose meals that use some of the same ingredients. So trying to think of what an example of this would be. So especially with produce, usually depending on the size of your family, like bell peppers, that's one that I'm actually using this next week. So I am making, I typically will use the bell peppers and eat them for lunches, but lately I just haven't been wanting to eat them for lunches. So they've been going, I haven't been using them up as fast as quickly as I've been wanting to. So I do have some bell peppers in there I need to use up. I purchased some more. So I will be using bell peppers in a stuffed pepper casserole and also in some oven fajitas. So there you go. There's an ingredient that I can use throughout the week. You may set like another thing, big cans of like crushed tomatoes. I use that for marinara sauce, but that big can may not be something that you can use for just one meal. It may not be enough of you, so you can find something else that you can use crushed tomatoes for. I wish I had some other examples. I like completely had them in my head when I was writing this list down, and I just didn't write my little notes. But anyways, try to think of that. Just choose meals that use some of the same ingredients. Tip number 9, try new recipes. I will tell you about this in the Get Inspired section as well, but trying new recipes is such a fun way to meal plan. And so just do it. Just try to make a goal of like at least once a week, try a new recipe. And I will give you some ideas of where to look for those. And then if it's something that you really, really enjoyed, then you can put it on your master list. And tip number 10, cook in bulk. So what I mean by that is there are certain foods that they are easy to cook in bulk. So some of the things that I have done in bulk, I used to make baked ziti all the time for my family. And that is such an easy meal to make. I mean, it's literally just pasta sauce, pasta, and some ground beef. So when you're making one and then you put it into a casserole dish, put it in the oven, what I used to do was make one and then I would make a second one to put it in the freezer. That was before my freezers got out of control and crazy. And so I am right now in the process of trying to clear out my freezers so I can start doing that again. Another one is meatloaf. I never made just one meatloaf. My family really likes meatloaf. And so I would make 2 every time because it's just as easy to make 2 of them than it is to make 1 of them. And you might as well just buy those extra ingredients. Then you have something in the freezer to pull out on a day that you maybe don't feel like cooking, or just you're running late and you need something to pull out. So almost every kind of casserole probably would fall under this category that you could cook in bulk. Like I said, meatloaf, a large roast. So if you're having roast one night, buy a larger one and then you can use it for other meals. So a way that I've used roast, because there's only just 4 of us in our family, and so I would always buy a large roast. I might use it for like open-faced, now these are of course not meals that I am eating, but I'm making them for my family, like hot roast beef sandwiches, and then I would use leftovers and make beef pot pies or beef stew. So those are ways, or just roast beef and cheese sandwiches, and French dip. So one roast could make several different meals. So you might as well just get a big one, freeze the rest leftovers, or just use it throughout the week in different meals. A lot of times, that's another one, an example of using some of the same ingredients. That's actually the one I was thinking of. So you have that roast, like I said, you could plan to eat on that several times throughout the week. And my family knows that I have a bin in my refrigerator that they could eat the things that say like it's like a leftover bin. They can eat that anytime. Then they know that there's the bin that they don't touch. That is the stuff that I'm going to use later on in the week. So a roast is a good one. Chicken, we don't eat a lot of chicken in my house as big meals because my husband is allergic. So I typically don't buy whole roast chickens, but you could buy a whole chicken and do the same type of thing with the chicken as well. So there's an example of using, ingredients throughout the week, but also cooking in bulk. Ground beef is another thing. If typically the big packages of ground beef are a lot more economical to buy. So you might as well buy those big ones, cook up the meat. It stays in the freezer for 3 or 4 months without going bad, and the same in the refrigerator. About 3 or 4 days you can keep cooked ground beef in the refrigerator and use it later in the week, or like I said, in the freezer for about 3 or 4 months, and you can use it later in the month. So you might as well do it if you're already cooking. You might as well try to cook up more than one, and then you always have some kind of backup in the freezer. So those are my 10 tips for getting organized when you're meal planning. Now I have some tips for getting inspired for meal planning. So there's only 4 of these, and there are some repeats on this with the organized, but you'll see why. Tip number 1, spend time throughout the week looking for new recipes. So this is what I do. A lot of times during my lunch break at work, I will be watching something, typically like something on Hulu or Netflix, and then I will be looking at Pinterest at the same time. And I literally have, if you guys are part of my Pinterest collab, you know that I have a ton of boards on my Pinterest. But they are all categorized, of course. You guys wouldn't expect anything less out of me. And I have, like, say, Simply Filling. I have WW main dish, WW side dish. Then I have other main dish and side dish. And the reason why those 2 main dishes is one is Weight Watchers and one is like for the family. And so literally I go through Pinterest and I just like save, pin. And that way I can go back on my meal planning day and I go look and see what I've pinned for the week. What I'm not good at is cleaning up my boards, so I am working on that. So Pinterest is my number 1 place where I go to look and get inspired for recipes. Then I have some blogs and websites that I check out regularly. Now there's ones that are for Weight Watchers, and then there's ones that I check out for the family. So my favorite Weight Watcher ones, of course, are Skinny Taste and Emily Bites. Those are the 2 that I definitely go check out for newer recipes. Drizzle Me Skinny also has some good Weight Watcher recipes. I think those are the top 3 probably that I'll just go and look and see if there's anything new on there that I want to try to make. And then so I do Pinterest throughout the whole week. I check those websites throughout the week, and also on Thursdays when I do my meal plan. And then I also I don't have any cookbooks, but what I do have I do have some cookbooks. I have a huge bin of cookbooks in my garage, but I don't use them. I actually need to go through them. I don't think I have any that are probably healthy diet friendly, which I want to start getting some of those. But I do get magazines on my Kindle. And my 3 favorite magazines that I've subscribed to that I get quite a few recipes from are Eating Well, Cooking Light, and Clean Eating. Those are 3 really good magazines where I find a ton. And Prevention Magazine, but the price recently went up on that and I'm not paying for that anymore. So, but those other 3, I really enjoy getting those magazines. And what I do is when I get the magazines, as I kind of scan through them, I will bookmark the recipes, and then on Thursdays I go through those 3 magazines to look for any bookmarks. And a lot of times what I'll do is I will write it down as well. That way I know. A lot of times I'm in bed is when I'm looking at the magazines, and so I just bookmark them and then I just look at them on Thursdays. So those are some places where you can try to get inspired and try to find some recipes for your next week's meal plan. So tip number 2 for getting inspired, check your grocery ads. So a lot of times, especially if you don't have a lot of protein in your freezers already stocked up, then a good place to go is to go see what is on sale in your grocery stores. So one thing you need to keep in mind is that at least in my area, it seems like all my grocery stores have their ads on different dates. So in my area, I only have just a few stores that I can shop at because I live in a small town. So we have a local grocery store and their ad starts on Wednesdays. And then Fred Meyer, which is the same as Kroger in other areas, their ad starts on Sunday. Can you hear my cat? She is driving me crazy. She's right outside the door meowing, but when I let her in, she wants out. Animals. Okay, so Kroger's ad starts on Sunday, and then Safeway is another place that I go to, which it has like, I think 10 or 11 different affiliates with it. So I don't know if you guys have like a Safeway, but I know like Shaw's and Vons, and I don't know. There's several different places that's the same as Safeway. But I think their ad starts on Wednesdays as well. So keep in mind on the day that you're doing your meal planning on when the ad will start and when your grocery shopping day is. So keep that in mind. So for me, when I look at it on Thursday, I'm fine because the other 2 ads have already started, and I go shopping on Saturday, so I'm good with the Fred Meyer one. So I just go online, I look at their ads, and I look to see, is there, what is on sale, can I plan around. Like this week, that's where I got the bell pepper idea for my stuffed pepper casserole and the lemon fajitas, because at Fred Meyer, they had bell peppers on sale for 77 cents. So that is an amazing price in my area. So I thought, you know what can I do with bell peppers? And that's what made me come up with the idea. Plus I had a couple already in my refrigerator I needed to use up. So there you go. That's how I got inspired for this week. So check your grocery ads. You can check for meat, check, like I said, the produce. You can check if there's any, canned food type stuff that is on sale. So just check all that stuff, and maybe that'll give you some inspiration. Plus the pictures on there, a lot of times, something will stand out to you. Oh, another thing that that inspired me, is not really a grocery app, but it was during grocery shopping, was Costco had the big humongous things of shepherd's pie, and I thought, you know what, I can make that myself. I used to make it all the time, and I can make that Weight Watcher and Simply Filling friendly, so that I'm making that this week as well. So, but I was inspired by the grocery store for that. So keep an eye out on, like in the deli area, and you see all these pre-made foods, you may be able to turn that into your own homemade family recipe. Number 3, ask your family. I know a lot of families will typically, like if it's your birthday week or whatever, then that, child gets to pick a meal. There for a while, as part of one of my theme nights, was you'd pick. So one week it would be, my husband, you get to pick anything you want to have on the meal plan one day this week. And then I asked each of my kids, and then I chose one. So that's another way you can kind of have another theme night, is a family member picks either, several days during the week, whatever you want to do, but that can be another one. Ask your family, what do they want for dinner this week? They may have something that you haven't made in a long time that you haven't thought about, but they've been thinking about. And, it's always one of those things where, at least it happens in my family, is that my husband will think about something. He's like, oh, we haven't had chicken fried steak in a while. And I'll be like, oh, well, you should have told me before I went grocery shopping. So, but then I will forget. If you don't write it down, also write them down as your family is telling you things. Write them down, put them in your phone, something close by to you. And that's what I've been doing also, is keeping notes in my phone. I have an iPhone, and it has a notes section, and I have tons of notes open, and I just write things down as I get inspired or think about recipes. I could be in the most random place, like the shepherd's pie thing, and I put it right there in my phone right away. So write it down right when you hear it. If you're like me and have a horrible memory, then you want to do it that way. And tip number 4 is a repeat from getting organized, and that is checking the weather. The weather can definitely inspire you for your meal plan. Again, just because if it's warm, you may want to do a grill night or salads, or if it's cold, you might want to do some soups or pastas. Just check the weather. Maybe you want to go do a picnic in the park or something, so you may want to do like a picnic dinner. Checking the weather can be, it just sounds kind of silly, but it really can inspire you for recipes you never know. So those are my 4 tips for getting inspired to meal plan. And then kind of a little bonus section here is, how do I use my meal plan to meal prep? So I do have a few tips for meal prepping. Tip number 1 is, of course, look at your meal plan. And whether or not you meal plan for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, I only definitely meal plan only for dinner. I do a little bit meal planning for lunches, but look at your dinner meal plan and your breakfast and lunch if you plan for that. So from there, tip number 2 is, depending on your life and your schedule and your work and your family's work and events, what makes most sense to prep. So you have your meal plan, you've done that. Number 2, look at your schedule. What makes the most sense for you to meal prep? Me personally, dinner. Because I leave the house at 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't get home till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, evening, whatever. I want to get dinner on the table no later than 7, because I have to turn around and do all that again. So for me, it makes more sense to prep for dinner. I make sure I have those dinner things prepped. And then whatever I have time for, I will do the rest. So when I say time, I mean tip number 3 is set a time limit. Those are my main 3 tips, and I will go in a little bit more detail. Is get your meal plan and have it there in front of you. Tip number 2, look at your schedule, decide on what makes most sense for you to prep. And tip number 3 is set yourself a time limit. So another thing about depending on your life. So like for me, again, a working mom, depending on your schedule, I'm a working mom that works the day shift. So dinner prep makes more sense for me. If you're a working mom that works any other kind of shift, it may make more sense for you to have your breakfast and lunch prep depending on what time you go to work. And then if you're a stay-at-home mom, it may be, you know, you have all these little kids, you need to get off to school. So it may be more, you know, advantageous for you to have maybe some pancakes or French toast that you have prepped and put into the freezer and you can just pull out really quickly and make, or maybe some omelet in the jars, or you know, something like that, or just have some lunch prepped because you have more time to make dinner. You may not, you know, need to prep any dinner, but breakfast and lunch items maybe make more sense for you to prep. So whatever it is, do that first. So again, putting a time limit, don't put pressure on yourself to get it all done. That's what I do. I make my list. I look at my meal plan. I always plan my dinners first. Okay, what do I need to make? What do I need to prep for these dinners? So like this week, you know, I looked at my dinners and I thought, okay, what do I need to prep? So my meal prep for this week, they're doing tacos one night this week. So I want to make my taco meat. I'm doing a shepherd's pie and also doing stuffed peppers. So I want to make my ground beef for those 2 meals. I'm going to have pasta salad for lunch one day. So I want to make the pasta salad ahead of time. Mashed potatoes for the shepherd's pie. Mashed potatoes you can make those ahead of time and then they're just fine when you need to use them. Quinoa and brown rice, I use those are typical side dishes for dinners that I have and also for my salads for lunches. So I want to prep those. Anything else bonus are going to be things like sugar-free Jell-O, hard-boiled eggs, although we're having chef salads this week, so hard-boiled eggs would be a good prep for dinner. So other extras might be making my tea that I make every once in a while, cutting up my vegetables, pre-packaging all my like carrots and bell peppers, that kind of thing, slicing up the vegetables that I may use for salads throughout the week. Those would be kind of my extras. The dinners I do first. So you need to set a time limit. You don't want to put pressure on yourself. Even a little bit of meal prep, you will notice, will help you, but don't try to do it all. Do not try to do it all. My time limit is an hour and a half. The only reason why I have an hour and a half, typically I probably would only do an hour out of my day, but an hour and a half works for me because I do film my meal prep, and this is also set up, prep, and clean up. Hour and a half for all of those. So how much time do you have to do yours? Mine, I do it Sunday morning. I give myself an hour and a half to do it. And whenever the hour and a half time limit is up, I actually kind of look at the clock, and because it takes me about probably 15 minutes to get cleaned up. So I typically cook up until 15 minutes before my hour and a half is up, and then I start cleaning up, and then I'm done. So like I said, I do have to take a little bit more time just because of filming. In the past, I've only done an hour. That was my typical. That was for setup. When I say setup, I mean bringing out all your containers. And that's another thing that I do. I guess could be another tip is getting organized on meal prepping. Is first thing you want to do is pull all your containers out that you want. I typically, next to like my list here, under taco meat and ground beef for shepherd's pie, I have mason jars next to those because that's what I use to store those. Pasta salad, I just have square dish. I know, to me, that's my square glass dish I put in there. Same with the quinoa and brown rice, I have round glass dish. So I put those next to my notes, that way I can just pull them all out of the one cupboard and then put it on the counter ready to go. If I'm making Jell-O, I have the box out, the measuring cup out. I always have my trash bowl that I call my trash bowl, and that's for my bowl. I don't run back and forth to the garbage can. So I put all my like vegetable clippings, all that stuff in there, any packaging, it goes into my trash bowl that I have right there ready in front of me. I take out any pots and pans that I'm gonna need. All that I take out on the counter, I put it all on the counter first, and then I start my prepping. So that's, I guess, another tip is getting organized. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you, gave you some ideas for meal planning, getting organized, getting inspired, and then getting your meal prep on. So let me know down below if you have any other questions. I would be happy to answer them, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.